Hi everyone, it's me Amanda. Thank you for watching. Today I'm going to talk about how my Christmas went and autism and Christmas, what it's like to have Christmas with autism, basically. Gathering with family and the overstimulation of it all, and then just like trying to deal with everybody's um, just everybody all at once. I do so much better at doing dealing with people on an individual basis. I can be more attentive. I can be listen better. I don't worry so much about my behaviors. I don't worry so much about my son's behaviors. Whew. Let's just say this Christmas I broke a door down. That I did do. Oh, my child's waking up. So, yeah, let's start from Christmas Eve. So Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, I spend at my mom's, and we don't live that far from each other. We live 15 minutes away from each other, so it's not like I have to travel to any other place, which is good. It has its pros and cons. I'm just kidding. It's good. It's helpful because then I have a really good, strong familial support system going on with my son. So I'm really glad about that. So I went Christmas Eve to my parents' house, and I just went with me and my son. My husband usually goes to his families with, to go drop off the gifts to his kids and things like that. And I was just, I got there, I was excited, I was happy, and then, something threw me off. It was something insignificant. I mean, it felt significant to me, but it was just like it was just something that I picked up on, and it threw me off. And, I was getting ready to eat, but I got like thrown off. And when I get thrown off and I'm not able to read someone, read like how they're being, I get like really, it starts replaying in my mind, because I take apart details. I replay that situation in my mind over and over and over, and it's like on a loop. And then so that's what happened. And I was just like, you know what? I need to take a step back. I need to go outside. My dad had a bonfire going on outside. My son was playing outside. I was like, I need to go outside so I don't I just was in a really, not like really angry or anything like that. I was just, my mind was working. It was processing something, and which put me in a not really festive mood. So I went outside and I just stayed with my dad outside, and we were talking, and I was just chilling, and I was just being on my phone. I was trying to calm myself before I, did something impulsive. So that's what I did. And, it's difficult because it's taken me so long to get to this point. And I knew it was Christmas Eve, and I didn't want to mess up anybody's Christmas. So, or make any kind of family tension or anything like that. So I was like, okay, breathe. All right. And I did. And it works. It works. But again, let me repeat. It's taken me a long time to get to this point. I'm 33 years old. And if you would ask the 23-year-old even, no. The 25-year-old, no. I would have been impulsive and I would have said something. And yeah, I would have, and even now, like when I'm impulsive, I'm really good at apologizing afterwards for my impulsivity. Not so much for the things I said, but the way I said it. I try to be more tactful with my words as opposed to being just like, here it is, and you're going to have to deal with it. I don't like that because I'm like, they're not the ones with the problem. If it's bothering me, then I'm the one with the problem, in the sense that I've got to figure out a way to address this issue in an adult way, So anyways, so I was just like, okay. And it worked. And I was glad for it. I ended up going to Christmas Mass, midnight Mass, while barely making it. My son was excited to go, and he was doing fine on New Year's Eve, no big meltdown. I mean, Christmas Eve, no big meltdown, so we did fine. Fast forward to Christmas Day, and we wake up, and my son, we don't get like 30,000 presents anymore. I don't do that. I like to get presents, focus on something that they would really like, anybody that they would really like, and that I would like to give to them, as opposed to just giving a substance, just giving a quantity. I really do value quality. And so I was like, I want to put a lot of thought into my gifts. And that's what I do now. And I did it for my son, and he was really excited. So we packed up everything and went to my mom's house. And everything was going great. I mean, we were there for several hours. So we're both exhausted by the end of this point. And, before that, my son, I'm working on with him on not being, he's 10 years old, and he has a way of speaking that can sound very rude. And it is rude. And I'm not going to be here and be like, oh, he has autism, so just dismiss it. No, he needs to be able to function in society. And when you go around being rude to everybody, that's not being able to be functioning society. You end up being a pariah, or you end up surrounding yourself with people that, are not in the best of light. And I don't want that for him. I don't want him to be isolated because of his rudeness. I don't want, I need to correct that behavior. And it's called corrective behavior. When you do that, you're correcting the behavior. And I know that's something that we're working on now. We're trying to focus on, because he has an amazing amount of vocabulary, which I'm so glad. Intense speech therapy is what I did when he got diagnosed with autism. And his vocabulary is above his age level, which is very rare to see with someone with autism. And at least that's what I've been told, and from what I know. So it's rare but not impossible. And I attribute it all to intense therapy in the beginning at the young age. But doesn't mean that you can't have a really rich vocabulary, because I didn't get intense therapy. I did get speech therapy when I was younger. I did. But I got it more when second and third grade, as opposed to when I was super young. I didn't speak very much. My mom thought I was deaf, so I didn't get to speak very much. But anyways, I'm getting off track. So let's go back to Christmas. So then Christmas Day comes, and the reason why I'm even telling this story is because I'm like, can anybody else relate? Whether you have a child with special needs or not, whether you have a child with autism or not, can you relate? But I so much more would love to find, or hopefully other mothers with a child with autism can relate to what it is that I'm going through, if they just need somebody to relate to. Because that's sometimes just makes me feel better. I don't wish upon anybody to have a child with a disability, or to be a person with a disability. I mean, we just are who we are, right? But if I found someone like me, or see someone going through the same things I am, with disability or not, it just gives you that sense of you're not alone, So that's why I want to make these videos weekly about, discussing about the journey through autism, of having a child with autism, and then having autism myself. And he got his presents. So this is where the rudeness comes in, is where he got his presents, and he was just like, I have that. We're really blessed right now in our point of lives, to where me and my husband, we can get my son things throughout the year. And I don't just get him things for the sake of getting him things. He works really hard in therapy and tutoring and school. So when he gets these little rewards, and they're not things like several thousand or $100 even, they're like little things, but it's still things, So I get stuff throughout the year. So he does have a good amount of things that he really enjoys. So he was just like, I have that. And everyone was like, see, I told you guys. But he was saying the tone he was using was just like, I have that. Because he was kind of disappointed, because he wanted this one certain action figure that he was very focused on. And when he got to the end of the pile, and everyone was like, okay, because they didn't want him to have a meltdown. They were like, okay. And we were all scrambling, and I was looking at him, and I was like, James. And I was just like, right now's not the time to have corrective behavior, because I could see a meltdown building up in him. And I was like, okay, sometimes you just have to take that step back. And I know it's hard, and it can be embarrassing sometimes. You got to pick and choose your battles, pick and choose when you're going to do the corrective behavior and when not. And a day like Christmas Day, where you want everything to be festive and everybody to be on a good mood, you kind of don't want him to have a meltdown on that day, So I'm like, this is something I put in my little Rolodex, and I'm going to address in the future. And I'm going to address it with him, not too far ahead of time where this stays forgotten, but within the certain time frame. So I do it like within one day. I'll do it the next day, or I'll do it even that night, just when we're going home and we're processing things. And that's when I adjust the behavior, because you don't want to do it too far in advance to where they don't understand. It's not connected. It's like really disconnected with the behavior, and then you're trying to correct the behavior, and it's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. When did that happen? I don't know. We ourselves can't even remember. We're just like, oh, okay. It's kind of better to not. Sometimes I address it on the spot, but on a day like Christmas, you just don't want to agitate things further, you know? And then he finally got down to his toy, and he was just like, oh my God, thank you so much. He was really happy because he did end up getting the action figure. My mom got it for him. And he was just really happy about that. And he was excited. And it was like, there you go. That's my son. Like, I know that he has it in him to be really gracious and thankful for what he gets. And I told him, I said, James, please, when you get something, don't just say, oh, I got that. And he goes, but I have it. I do have it. And I was like, and it makes sense. He has it. So he's stating a fact. But now I'm trying to tell him what tones, and explain to him the tones that we use, the tones that people use. It matters, because if we're not aware of that, and these are things that we as human beings, we just pick up on other people, and we're like, oh, okay, like I understand that. And someone with autism, it's hard to pick that up, those little things, that everyday things. And so it's like, okay, well, this is something that it's going to be worked on. Okay, so then we get through the rest of the day, and we're there for several hours, and he's having a fun day, and he's playing actually with my niece, and they're 5 years apart. And my niece loves to give him hugs, and she's such a sweetheart, and she's really trying to be understanding, because she knows he doesn't like hugs, but she loves to give hugs. And so she goes, I'm trying to give him a hug. And so they play and get used to each other, and it's just like little kids playing. And then he runs off into my older niece's room, where she was working that day, and he locks himself in there. Now, my niece, my little 5-year-old niece, she comes down. She's just like, oh, James is in the room. He won't open the door. So I go, because I didn't know, was he in there? Is he somewhere else? So I go and I knock, and I hear silence, dead silence. And I'm like, James, open up. Are you in there? And he's not answering me. It's completely silent. So I'm like, open up. A few minutes go by. I'm trying to open it with a butter knife. I go around to look through the window. The curtain's drawn. It's locked. I can't get in. And I'm like, okay. Then panic starts setting in, because I'm like, is he in there? And if he's in there, is he okay? He's not answering. And usually, more often than not, he will answer. He'll say, leave me alone. I need some time, if he's upset. Or he'll just be like, yeah, I'm in here. Okay. And he'll finally open the door. So I was like, he's not answering. It's complete silence. What's going on? So then I start knocking, and then the panic starts rising in me. Just a lot of my Rolodex, my brain was just flashing pictures of what could possibly happen in that little space in time, and it makes me really, I just was like, oh my gosh. So anyways, so I was just like, okay, James, open the door now. Like, you have to open the door. And I was cursing, and I was just like, open the freaking door. And he wouldn't. And then I was like, but he wasn't answering. Even with that, he wasn't answering. And usually when I get to that tone or level, he'll answer, or he'll move or something. And I wasn't hearing no movement. And I don't know if maybe I was just like zoned out. I don't know. All I know is, next thing you know, I was like, open the door. And I just slammed into the door and broke it open. And he was sitting on the bed looking at me, like, his eyes got so big. My son has big eyes, and his eyes got so big. He's pale also, and he went like completely pale, even more pale. And he looked, and he's just like, and we both said at the same time, he's like, you scared me. And I was like, you scared me. And we both just started crying. And it was like that moment, and he was like just freaking out, because he's like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And I was like, why did you do that? Why did you lock yourself in here? And we're both like on the brink of a meltdown. So my siblings, God bless them, and my mom and my husband, they just like let us be, because they knew, like, coming in, surrounding us, we would get so overwhelmed, and it would just, in those moments, I don't like to be touched. I don't want anybody to touch me. And I know my son's the same way. He doesn't want anybody to touch him. We need everyone to just leave us alone. It's like a barrier. Like, just like, please don't touch us. Don't talk to us. Just leave us alone. And me and him were like communicating to each other. And we were like, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And we both were crying. And then after a while, after calming down, and it was a few minutes, this wasn't like 10 seconds. We were just, it was a couple minutes, and we were just like, okay. And I was, I had to calm myself down first, of course, because he's a 10-year-old boy. And I'm just like, okay, I had to calm down. And I was like, okay, James, you can't do that. I go, you can't just lock yourself into a room and not answer me. And I go, you need to answer me. And then he was just like, why would you break the door down? And he was just not getting it. So I was like, okay, just leave it alone, because his mind's already looping and it's just stuck on whatever it is that he's saying, and he repeats over and over. And I was like, okay, just gotta let it go. Well, this thing on my lip, which I'm sure it's obvious, was the cause, like the stress created this mass. And I was like, oh my God, like, because when we came home, we processed, and I was like, I calmed down, and the adrenaline was leaving my body, and we ended up having a good night. We ended up, me and him, sitting downstairs. My husband had to go to work the next day, so he went to sleep. But me and him were sitting downstairs. We were watching a show. But then another incident did happen where he did come upstairs. We were ready to go to bed. After our movie, we came upstairs to go to bed, and he goes, can I sleep with you guys? And I was like, yeah, sure. But then he wanted to sleep on my husband's side, where my husband usually sleeps. And my husband's just like, James, scoot over, please. And he's like, Bobby, blah, 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 blah. And he's like arguing. And that's how he's been throughout the day. Like he's getting this tone where he wants to actually dialogue back, but in an argumentative way. And I'm like, okay, you need to understand that there is a hierarchy in the family system, and you don't get to say all the rules. I'll explain to you why I'm doing something, which I've gotten used to. I don't just say because I said it. No. I explain why I'm doing what it is I'm doing, because he always asks why. And it's time consuming. It takes a lot of patience, but I understand it, because he doesn't get it, and I have to explain to him. I think all children you should give them an explanation for the most part, just not because I said so, but why are you doing this? And then it creates it easier to be like, oh, okay, that's why. So I explained to him, and he just was like not having it. And I was like, okay, boundaries. This is something we're setting in our household, and I have throughout the years, but they always change. But setting these boundaries, and I was like, James, and sense the frustration in all of us in the room, and I was like, I was tired, but it was the end of Christmas Day. Okay, it was at past midnight, and I was exhausted, and I was like, okay. But I pulled the last patience I had, and I said, James, I go, these are rules in the household, and everyone has to live by rules. Society has rules. In this household, these are the rules. Everyone has their space where they sleep. There's the train, sorry. Everyone has a space where they sleep. And if you can't sleep on that space, then you're going to have to go to your room. And in your room, you can sleep wherever you want to on your bed. And he was just like, but I want, and he was just like, and I held him because he was crying. He was upset. And I was like, these are things that we have to stick to, though. It pains us. It's so much easier to just say, sure, sleep here. Sleep on this side. But if I do that, it sets a precedent, and it will be like that. And then it builds up, and it just doesn't become the sleeping on the side, on a certain side. It starts rolling into everything. I've been through this before, and it's like, no, there is a reason why you set these boundaries, and why, you have to adjust these behaviors. And this was one of those times where in the moment, you have to adjust the behavior. So he ended up sleeping in his room. I ended up laying next to him. He wanted a lullaby. He calmed down. He watched his movie, and he just fell asleep very fast, like super fast. And I was like, see, he was just tired. In the end, he was just tired. And when he gets tired, he really does stick to something. He doesn't let it go. But he was just tired. He woke up the next day fine. My husband woke up the next day fine. He went to work. Everyone woke up the next day fine. I woke up the next day exhausted. I was so exhausted. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, something's coming out on my lip. Oh my God. But in the end, it was fine. It was exhausting. I'm sure everyone's holiday was exhausting. Hopefully not too exhausting where you didn't enjoy it. I mean, I did enjoy it, but it can be exhausting, overwhelming. So after that, I just had decompressing days where I just decompressed, and I just stay home. And I'm just like thankful. Thank you all you guys for the gifts. I love it. It was beautiful Christmas. I just need to decompress. Now I have to spend the next week, and I have to go to my mom's house and fix my niece's door. Luckily, the door itself didn't break, just the door frame of one side. So I have to actually go get a piece and put it back on and all this stuff. But that moment of panic was, yeah, it's tough. It's tough. And I think it gets heightened even more because of my autism. And I just, I just, I don't know. My son's at an age where he's going through puberty, or he's at the beginning stages, and he's dealing with certain things and certain changes within him. And so I'm just, I get worried and nervous because I was told, and it's just, there are going to be a lot of changes, some good, but a lot of upticks in behaviors, and I can see it already starting. And that's for another video, but we'll discuss that. Like, what does it mean to go through puberty and having autism and things like that. But hopefully you made it to the end. This might have been a tad bit longer than what I thought, but yeah. So that was my holiday. And again, anything I say, it pertains to me. Your story might be unique. It might be different. It might be similar. You might have autism, you might not. But just, if you relate to this, then yep, this is what happened. I broke down a door on Christmas Day. So if you like this video, please subscribe below, hit the subscription button. I will be making more videos. It'll be every Wednesdays when I'm going to talk about autism and just my journey with that, and just the stories that I have. Not just me having autism again, but raising a son with autism. So yeah, please again, subscribe below, hit the notifications button, and I hope you guys have a great week. See you guys next time. Bye.